Hello, I'm so excited to be here today. We are going to talk about sex, desire, and relationships, which is my favorite topic to talk about because it is a topic that really can suscitate a lot of emotion around shame, around guilt, around confusion, and really worry around our relationships. So we're going to get started. Great. Okay. So, good afternoon. Like I said, I'm so excited to be here. We're going to dig in and I'm going to show you how to reconnect with your sexual desire and navigate intimacy when you've been in a relationship for a long time. And it can be so much easier than you think. And actually, it's a really great journey to make your relationship, your partnership even stronger and more fulfilling with time. So, having low desire, whether it's you or your partner, can be really an opportunity for growth in your relationship. But before we dig in, I kind of just want to tell you a little bit about my journey because it will give you a sense of how I got to do what I do, and I specialize in sexual desire. So my journey started about 24 years ago when I was 20, and I was diagnosed with two conditions, vulvodynia and vaginismus, which are treatable conditions. But I'm not going to go into these conditions today, but just to give you an overview, they are conditions that make sex very painful. And it took me years to overcome this. I was seeing doctors, I was seeing therapists, I was taking medication. I even had to have surgery at one point, which they don't even do anymore. But throughout that healing journey, I realized that there were so many factors that were causing these conditions that I had that were other than physical conditions that translated into my sexual health. And over the course of 3 years, I ended up healing, but it made me very aware of how my thoughts, my emotions, my environment, my relationship dynamics, and all the things could influence how I showed up sexually, but also how they affected my libido and my interest in sex. And as I was going through this process back in the day, I really felt compelled to pursue studies in the field. So I didn't know where that would take me, but I just felt I needed to do that. And I wanted to understand myself better, and I wanted to pay it forward to help other people in the future. So after that, I trained as a hypnotherapist, as a transformational coach, and I became a Master NLP Practitioner. And I've integrated all of these techniques and built a really successful full-time practice helping mostly women and couples struggling with low libido. And the more clients I saw, the more I realized how much people's lives are impacted by being disconnected sexually from each other, from their partner. You feel anxious, you feel abnormal, you're overthinking all the time. It makes you really confused, it makes you frustrated, you feel a little bit lost in yourself, and you get worried about your relationship and the state and where it's going. So today, I really want to share with you what I've learned personally and as a sexologist. And I want to invite you during this time we have together to really ask yourself some questions and reflect on how you feel in your sex and intimate life right now. And how do you want the connection in your relationship to be? Like, how do you want your sexual connection to be like? Because intimacy goes so much beyond physical closeness. It's about deep connection and shared non-sexual and sexual experiences. And our relationships are really the foundation of our lives. They provide love, they provide us with support, with connection. And it's intimacy that keeps us bonded with our partner, and it keeps the energy flowing in our partnerships. But often, unfortunately, it's the first thing to fade when life gets busy. So when you are raising a family, career shifts, aging, life transitions, intimacy is always one of those things that tend to go away first, right? And it's not always easy to maintain that level of intimacy. And we often find ourselves so caught up in these responsibilities of daily life that we forget to nurture our relationship. And that can create frustration and tension, like I said, with your partner, sadness. And what I hear often with people who come to me with low desire is saying to me, something is wrong with me, I need to be fixed. Like, I'm not like other people. So while we're going through this talk today, I'm going to cover a few key areas. So first, we're going to explore desire for what it is. So understanding how it changes and why it fades in a relationship. Then we're going to look at common challenges that happen in relationships leading to disconnect and in sex and intimacy. And finally, I'm going to share 3 easy ways to help you to rebuild that deeper emotional sexual connection, even during tough times in your life or in your relationship. So by the end of this talk, I'm really hoping that you're going to feel inspired. You're going to feel equipped to a certain level and have ideas to strengthen both your intimacy and purpose in your relationship. So this is a quote that I love. I thought it was funny, and I think that we've all been in this situation at one point, or at least one person listening to this today can relate to this. I'm too tired to have sex, but I'm awake enough to argue about it for the next 5 hours. And I see this all the time in my practice where both partners come to me and they're both feeling resentful, saying they keep arguing about sex every day. It's their main topic of tension. They have all the time in the world to have these tense conversations about it, but they don't know the solutions. And they're arguing about who initiates more and this and that. And it just goes into loops and loops and loops. And the problem is that they're focusing on what's wrong because they don't know how to address the problem. And so awakening intimacy in your relationship often starts by recognizing signs that something is off. So one of the first things that couples notice usually is that they're not having as much sex as they used to. And this can be completely normal and completely unrelated to your relationship. It's just a natural flow that can come back. But often it also indicates a deeper issue that if it's been going on for a while. Another sign is that, and now this is a big one, is that you are having more predictable, monotonous sexual experiences, and that is diminishing excitement and desire in you. So this happens a lot when we are in more long-term relationships where we're past the honeymoon phase, we're living together, maybe you've been together for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, right? And sex has become more methodical than connected. And you're just not experiencing enough pleasure to want it again. And so your desire starts to fade. Another thing that happens is that you just stop talking about sex altogether. You avoid the problem because it's uncomfortable, because you don't know how to solve it, and it creates tension, and you're just so tired of arguing. And that can contribute to both of you feeling removed from each other emotionally. So when you do start to feel emotionally distant from each other, it makes it so much harder to maintain that strong sexual connection. And you end up not being very affectionate with each other anymore. So when you're watching TV at the other end of the sofa, for example, and you're not having much affection outside of the bedroom, it can be very easy to lose that connection. It's incredibly difficult to go from no affection and no intimacy in your relationship on a daily basis to having incredible sex and pleasurable sex every week, right? Like you need to have, I always tell couples I work with, foreplay starts way before you're having that sexual experience. You need to have that build up. So like I said before, busy lives can reduce time spent together, and it can create some disconnect as well. That can also lead to emotional drift. So recognizing these signs are really the first step towards rebuilding your intimacy, and addressing these issues can really reignite that connection in your relationship moving forward. So I want us to today look at sex from a different perspective. Whether it's you or your partner that wants to have sex more, I want you to remember this, okay? Sex Yes, it can be a physical release and it gives you pleasure. Of course it does. But more often than not, sex represents something much deeper in your relationship. We often, and this is a quote that is unknown, but I just find it really amazing because it's often really what comes up in my sessions with clients. We crave to be touched. It's not really sex that we're looking for. It's not really that physical release. We crave to be touched, to be seen, to be admired, to meet those emotional needs. And really experiencing true sexual pleasure means that your core needs for a meaningful connection are met beyond the physical interaction. So let's zoom out during the time we have together, because sex is often reduced to orgasm and penetration. And when you're in that mindset, it creates pressure, it creates expectations, and it makes you overthink. And guess what happens? You're not in the present moment during sex, and your desire starts to drop. And if you see touch and affection from your partner as just a way for them to get you into bed, guess what happens? Your desire drops because you feel that it's not about you. You feel that it could be you or anybody else, and your partner just wants sex. Okay? So that's why it's really important to learn how to navigate intimacy in your relationship. So let's start by understanding what desire and intimacy is. Like, that's the basic stuff, right? Desire and intimacy are really deeply intertwined in any relationship. Desire is the spark. It's like that yearning to connect with your partner on a deeper level, more emotionally and physically. It really varies from person to person. So there's really no such thing as normal sex drive or normal libido. Every person's interest in having sex is different, and it can change from time to time. It can vary, it can fluctuate depending on the stage you are in your relationship, depending on life circumstances. It's not something that's stagnant. So our desire is not, the expectation should never be that our desire is something that should stay the same all the time. So when you think about back in the day when you had that honeymoon phase and you wanted your partner all the time, it's impossible that you feel like this forever in your relationship. It's going to go through waves. Desire is not enough to sustain a relationship. Okay, so it's not enough. It needs a foundation of intimacy. And this is why I want to spend time on intimacy, because intimacy is the closeness, the connection that grows over time. It's building that bond through those shared experiences, open communication, that mutual understanding. While desire can flow depending on various factors. So intimacy is really what keeps your relationship grounded and resilient. And it is that space that you create to allow your desire to grow. So you need to find the right balance between desire and intimacy to create not only a stronger partnership, but to connect, to feel more connected, and to have pleasurable sexual experiences that will then feed that desire. Because the more pleasurable sexual experiences that you have, the more that you are going to want to have more, right? It's like having an amazing piece of cake. Maybe you're not hungry anymore, but you're going to crave it very soon because it's like the most amazing piece of cake that you've ever had. So basically, all my clients, they come to me thinking that they've lost all interest in sex because they don't have that spontaneous urge to have sex anymore, the urge that you used to have at the beginning. And the first thing I usually do is to demystify sexual desire. I want to quickly go over this right now to help you normalize how your desire can vary and change in your relationship, so you don't feel like something is wrong with you, and you don't also feel like maybe something is wrong with your partner. But I also want to give you hope that you can still tune into that sexual part of you, even if you think right now that it's gone. So Emily Nagoski, and I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she is an amazing sex educator. She's contributed so much to the field, and she explains that there are two forms of sexual desire. There's spontaneous desire and responsive desire. And both of them can vary and fluctuate over time. So spontaneous sexual desire is really really like self-explanatory, right? So it's a kind of desire that can arise suddenly out of nowhere, without any physical stimulation or external sexual triggers. So this is the type of desire like you have in the honeymoon phase, where you have that mental arousal first and you just think of that person you're with, or you're looking at that person. It creates that urge, that desire to have sex, and it just makes you really, really crave that intimacy with them. This can be present in both partners at first in the relationship, but with time, this kind of desire is much more common in men than in women. So about 70% of men will have more spontaneous desire than women, and about 10 to 20% of women will have a spontaneous desire. So what does that mean for the leftover 80 or 90% of women? It doesn't mean that they've lost their desire. It just means that they, whoops, sorry about that. It just means that they have, it just means that they have transitioned into another type of desire. Okay, so responsive desire is a more gradual than automatic arousal. Okay, and this is triggered more by physical arousal. So it's really allowing yourself to feel pleasure with touch first. And that desire to have sex will come more naturally. So let's say you are in the bedroom, you're not wanting to have sex, you're not interested in it at that moment. You start kissing with your partner, you start, maybe touching, and then suddenly that desire is going to, you start getting aroused, and then that desire is going to come up, right? But it's not something that you're going to feel maybe half an hour before when you're doing the dishes. Yeah, it's more a situational and deliberate desire. It's not automatic. So I want you to get out of that mindset that libido is something that only comes with sexual urges. You just need to allow it to happen. And recognizing that you may have responsive desire can really help you and your partner to have a better understanding of your sexual needs and to work together to reignite a full sexual relationship for both of you. And this is where intimacy plays a huge role, right? So when we feel comfortable talking to our partner about our needs, we form this deep emotional connection with them. And it creates that sense of belonging, that sense of connection. We feel heard, we feel seen, we feel understood, and we trust them. We create that space of vulnerability and empathy with them. And this type of intimacy creates that safe space for your desire to grow. And when we experience intimacy, we really feel more grounded and connected to ourselves. It allows us to be our authentic selves. It allows us to tune into our sexual energy and to show up in the best way that we can. It reminds us, intimacy always reminds us that we are not alone, that our lives have meaning and purpose. And I really believe that intimacy plays such a big role in a reason to get up in the morning. It reminds us that our lives have meaning and value, connecting with our partner, connecting with other people. So let's go through some challenges that lead to disconnect in a relationship. So in my practice, I often see several common triggers that block desire and intimacy in relationships, usually catalysts to sexual disconnect, and which will create more problems down the line. So one of the first things that I notice is work, financial pressures, life's demands can really drain your energy and your focus, not giving you the headspace to feel desire, but also preventing you from being present in your own body and to feel the sensations and to really be there and experience that closeness that you have with your partner, because you may be thinking about 100 different other things. The other thing is the parenting responsibilities that can leave little room for connection with your partners. So I'm sure a lot of you have been there where you have kids running around, or you're trying to do this, to do chores. All of these things, you're trying to divide and conquer, basically. And when you're dividing and conquering, you're not connecting. Okay. Another thing is fluctuation in hormones. So during pregnancy, during menopause, women who struggle with PCOS can also feel lower libido, and it makes intimacy less enjoyable as well because of vaginal dryness that can happen. For men, testosterone is really responsible for that spontaneous the spontaneous desire, that libido. And with men, over time, the testosterone decreases with age. And when they reach a certain age, it can have an impact on their desire. Not prioritizing quality time together or losing touch with yourself can also make it harder to connect with your partner because you're not tuning into that sexual part of you. Body image issues and negative self-perception is also something I see that create insecurity and distance, and really preventing you from wanting to expose yourself. Like, it's very exposing to be naked in front of your partner, especially when you've gone through body changes, and it can feel a little bit really unsettling. You can feel ashamed, you can feel judged and insecure. Relationship dynamics is a huge one, and this can show up in conflict or avoidance. So without nurturing the relationship through time and shared experiences, intimacy can fade. Unresolved physical issues, sexual issues, such as erectile dysfunction, vaginal dryness, or simply a lack of pleasure, sexual pleasure, can create significant barriers to intimacy. When our partners manifest a sexual problem that isn't dealt with, sometimes the only way for you that you know how to cope with this problem is by shutting down your own sexual part of you, because you've been either rejected too many times, you've had arguments about it too many times, and it's just easier to say, well, I'm just going to have a sexless relationship if it can avoid all of the tension and the arguments and the negative feelings that I'm experiencing by feeling this rejection from my partner. So this is really important because these are problems that can be solved. And it's important that both partners participate in resolving these sexual issues in one partner for you to reconnect sexually. Also, when sex isn't enjoyable or is associated with discomfort or performance anxiety, it becomes something that you avoid rather than what you look forward to. So when these problems arise, I've seen 3 common habits that one or both partners get into, which can make them fall deeper into disconnect. Which one of them being neglecting emotional intimacy. So emotional intimacy is the foundation of a strong relationship, yet it often gets overlooked. And this is not just about talking through logistics of daily life. Some couples are saying, yeah, but we have a great relationship. We never argue day to day. Everything is good on a daily basis. We get along well. Yes, maybe. But are you really having deep, meaningful conversations anymore? Are you being vulnerable with each other? Because if you are not, this can create fear. It can create conflict, and it's not just about them. It's not. Let me start over. This can be, you can avoid the intimacy, emotional intimacy out of fear or conflict, or just because you don't see the need for it. So if there's a problem in a relationship or a sexual problem, like I said before, it can create a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, and feelings, negative feelings in your relationship. Sometimes it's easier to just sweep things under the rug than to address problems in your relationship. But spending that quality time together and truly reconnecting, truly having those difficult conversations really create that safe space for you. So watching Netflix together is great, but it never replaces the need for genuine emotional connection. Not addressing sexual barriers. So we all have things that can dampen our desire, like turnoffs or things that we often overlook. So not identifying these barriers or ignoring them instead of addressing them can create a real disconnect with your partner. So for example, if you know that that if you need the kitchen cleaned before bed, or you need to take a shower after work, to help you to feel like you can have that connection with your partner and allow you to be in that intimate moment, then make sure you send that. Make sure you send that email. Make sure you do the dishwasher. You empty the dishwasher before you go to bed. Make sure you take that shower. Right? Sometimes it's just those little tweaks that can make a huge difference in your intimacy. Otherwise, you're going to be thinking all evening about what you haven't done and how uncomfortable you are. And you won't be in the mood to have an intimate moment or to be present during sex. You may push yourself to have sex, but you're not necessarily going to enjoy it. And so you need to make your circumstances more conducive to intimacy. Now, the third thing I notice is not focusing on your own pleasure. So many couples fall into the trap of sexual complacency, like I mentioned before, or goal-driven sex, like focusing too much on orgasm, on penetration, on all of these things. Okay, or sex becomes routine, right? It's all right. It's okay sex, but it's not amazing. When this happens, it's easy to lose the desire for sex because you're not really enjoying the moment. And it's crucial to really prioritize your own pleasure to make sex something you genuinely look forward to rather than just going through the motions. These habits are common, but the good news is that they're fixable. It's really, they're little tweaks that you can do to help you to reconnect and reignite that connection and desire in your relationship. So I wanted to show you a quick video. So I'm going to try to play it now, but no, okay, it's not working. Sylvia, maybe we can play the video if that's okay. We can switch the screen. Okay. So let me see if you can see this.
Try some Viagra.
I'm worried that the Viagra will interfere with the Prozac. That's life. You know, I'm either soft and happy or miserable and hard.
I would be totally fine with miserable and hard.
Okay, great. So, oops. Sorry about that. Okay. So this is really a great video. I love this video. What are the things that you notice in this couple's interaction? So there are a few sexual issues. So the husband has erectile dysfunction. So this couple, what they do is they turn towards each other. They're using touch. They're using humor. They are looking in each other's eyes. They're being sexual partners. And often, couples, we are life partners, but we really forget about that sexual part. We're not only life partners, we're also sexual partners. And in couples who are not secure or connected and who don't move towards each other when they have problems, whether it's a lack of desire or the issue with sexual response, you may feel shame, you may withdraw, you may react negatively, blame each other, and not try to understand what is happening. So that creates that unsafe space between both partners, feelings of rejection in both partners as well. So I'm giving, this example when sexual function arises, but it goes for all things that can affect intimacy. You need to have that safe space, removing pressures around intimacy, and add playfulness to the mix to feel reconnected. So let's go into that. Okay, so reconnecting with sexual desires. So with sexual desire and intimacy in your relationship. Now, this is not about being perfect. This is about making an intentional choice to strengthen your relationship. So what I'm about to tell you right now, it's not homework. There are things that you can put into practice so that that will become more natural with time. And the first thing I want to say is that while sex toys and lingerie can add excitement to your sexual relationship, they aren't a solution to the deeper need for emotional connection. So they can help temporarily, but sometimes what happens is, and what I see is that that couples who only rely on these things to fix sexual problems go back to that disconnect. So it's not the ultimate solution, and it might spice things up temporarily, but they won't address the deeper issues. And although addressing relationship issues is important, but it's not always necessary before rekindling physical intimacy. So sometimes reconnecting physically can also help heal emotional wounds, and that really depends on the couple. So what you'll see is that you can address emotional issues first, or you can address emotional issues and physical connection at the same time. This is really going to depend on the couple, and some couples really need to attend to their emotional connection first, but some couples want to address both at the same time. Some couples have emotional disconnection because they haven't resolved their sexual problems. So it really depends on the situation that you're in. Emotional intimacy is so much more than physical closeness. So there's this great quote by Esther Perel: women want to talk first, connect first, then have sex. For men, sex is the connection. Sex is a man's language of intimacy. And I don't like to be stereotypical like that, but this is often something that shows up, and it really represents a reality I see in my daily practice. I'm sure some of you can relate to this as well. And these are really common challenges, and you're definitely not alone facing them. And men and women can have trouble understanding each other this way. So when I talk about addressing intimacy and sexual connection at the same time, this is one of the reasons why. So I'm going to give you 3 ways you can find your flow back to intimacy as a couple. And this is a dynamic cycle. They are not in a particular order. It really depends on you. So what I found in my experience is that some couples, they go do sex therapy and are thrown into intimacy exercises, and they're just not ready yet. They're not ready to go into that sexual part or that physical reconnection. They really feel the need to connect, to feel emotionally closer first. So this is not all couples. So it really is personal to you and how you feel. So let's start by strengthening your connection. To find your flow back to intimacy, the first simple way is to strengthen your connection. Looking back in my own relationships, what I noticed is that when me and my partner went through phases where we didn't talk or we didn't spend much time together, I felt very lonely. I felt disconnected and even resentful for feeling unsupported. And it wasn't necessarily their fault. I was like, yes, I'm going to deal with this on my own. I am an independent woman. But other times I was begging for support, which I wasn't getting, and being criticized for being too emotional. So in both scenarios, I didn't want to have sex. I didn't have that desire. And I felt I had to do it as my duty to be a good partner. I didn't feel sexy. I didn't feel important or considered. But at that time, I didn't realize that the more I felt connected with them emotionally, the more I wanted to be close to them sexually. Feeling like we both had each other's backs really made me feel safe and free sexually, free to express myself. And for desire to exist, you need to have that sense of safety in your relationship. So this means in practice really prioritizing the following things: actively appreciating each other. So this is where emotional intimacy begins. We forget to do this when we are in a long-term relationship. We forget to express gratitude for the little things our partner does sometimes, and that can really go a long way. And maybe right now you're not feeling appreciation from them. Maybe it's coming from their side, where you're like, I'm doing all these things and they're not showing me appreciation, and it's making me disconnect sexually. Like, I don't want to feel close to them. Talking more, right? These all kind of go hand in hand. It's also important to talk regularly, not just about daily logistics, but about your feelings, your dreams, and what is happening in your lives, how you want to grow together. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable and resolve issues as they go along can prevent resentment from creeping up in your relationship. Expressing fears, sexual concerns, like, what do you want? What do you want it to be like? What do you like? What do you dislike? It will create that space for you in your relationship, that safe space for your partner to do the same as well. It always starts with one person. Spending quality time together is crucial as well. And so whether it's going on dates, sharing a hobby, just sitting down for a meal without distractions, without your phones, these moments really help you to reconnect on a deeper level. But also making time for yourself. So it's essential in the process, especially if you've had kids and all your attention was on them, on your life, on just making your life function. It's easy to lose touch with who you are as an individual, and with all the demands that we have out there on us, career, parenting, work, and like all of these things, and our friendships, like, it's just a lot to handle. Financial considerations, right? So when you feel disconnected from yourself, it becomes harder to connect with your partner. Taking time to reconnect with yourself through personal reflection, just having that me time, just having that moment at like maybe 20 minutes a day where you're just sitting there in silence. If you can find that moment of silence, embracing those moments of solitude, it will help you to rediscover your own needs, to love yourself, your body again, and to feel confident again. Now, reviving physical touch. This is the second way that can help you reconnect with intimacy. And this starts outside of the bedroom, right? Like, I'm not gonna throw you into the bedroom just yet. So when we lose a desire, interest in sex, sometimes we feel pleasure. Sometimes we feel pressure and physical touch around physical touch, because we're afraid that it will automatically be received as an invitation for sex, right? And so what you're doing is avoiding and disconnecting. So you're not actually solving the problem. And never in my career or my personal life has a problem been fixed by avoiding the situation. You cannot expect to have desire if you don't have physical touch and then suddenly switch to wanting sex. No way. Couples who engage in daily hugs, kissing, hand holding, back rubs, cuddling, all of that stuff, they report a higher level of relationship satisfaction and easier conflict resolution. So it is a really important part of this. Simple, non-sexual gestures, like I said, holding hands, hugging, sitting close together, can help rebuild that physical connection that you lost without the pressure of going straight into sex. Learn to be your authentic self again without the fears holding you back. If your partner comes home after a long day, you both may have gotten out of the habit of kissing each other, right? This also gives you the opportunity to reassociate touch with love and closeness rather than with sex, removing that pressure. So if you're still very affectionate outside of the bedroom, so if now you're listening to me and you're like, well, that's not us, we are very affectionate, we still do all these things, good, I'm happy to hear that. But so what happens? Like, think about what else you need. Think about what you need to feel seduced. Like, what kind of touch are you missing that makes you feel desired, that makes you feel seduced by your partner? What kind of things can you do to help your partner feel seduced, right? Go stretch yourself in that other zone, like beyond affection. Like, what do they need? Like, if you don't know, have a conversation with them, just start with that and kind of rediscover the joy of touch, making it a natural and enjoyable part of your relationship again, and to create the same intimate, create that intimate space that maybe you used to have that you've lost touch with. So now, when we were talking about responsive desire, remember that kind of desire that doesn't just show up, and you need to allow yourself to get into that space of arousal first. So this is what this is, all right? Reigniting play and pleasure. And by doing this, you are allowing yourself to feel desire again. You're opening a door to allow your desire to flow. You want to reignite curiosity, play, and pleasure in your relationship. Approach your connection with a sense of wonder. Ask questions, try new things, explore it together. And when I say that, I'm thinking, not just to sex to start with. Have fun, laugh together, do activities that will help you to relax. Don't talk about kids, don't talk about logistics, or have playful banter and flirt again. Remember why you're together. Playfulness can be a powerful way to break down barriers and to bring joy back into your relationship, but also to feel more authentic in the bedroom. Remember when you were a kid and you used to play with those Legos or those Barbies, and you used to feel really playful. You were just in that moment. This is what sex is. It's just a playful adult moment. So you need to really tune back into that playfulness to be able to be engaged in playful sex and feeling like sex is fun again. So the way that you engage with sensual physical touch is a way that you're going to find that playfulness again. And often I have clients saying, this therapist said to schedule time for sex. No, don't schedule time for sex. Don't do that. Plan for intimacy instead, with no goal in mind, just being together. Sometimes going to bed earlier with the intention of simply exploring touch without having the expectation of intercourse or orgasm can be incredibly beneficial. Use this time to rediscover each other's bodies, touches you prefer, what you like, what you don't like in a non-pressure environment, because maybe you've lost touch with that. Maybe you used to know and now you don't know anymore. Focus on the sensual touch and understanding what you both enjoy and don't enjoy. Get to know your partner's body again as well. This will help to rebuild connection and intimacy without the pressure of achieving a specific outcome, such as penetration or orgasm. Okay, so very quickly, I want to talk about a little bit more about pleasure. And this is really important to reconnect with your own pleasure as well for your relationship. This involves work on yourself. To reignite pleasure. So you unlock eroticism in your mind. And I want you to take the foot off the brake and put it into the accelerator, in the sense that I want you to work on your barriers to feeling safe in your body and trusting yourself again, trusting your sexual responses, and allowing yourself to experience that pleasure. So for example, working on mindfulness, doing body scans, that can work into collaboration with your body to feel embodied again, to tune into that energy of your body that you feel disconnected from. This also means pleasuring yourself, and this is your compass, right? So when we focus on what feels bad, we're stuck. So we need to learn again to focus on what feels good and be more in tune with your body. So now the first thing that you'll think about is masturbation, which definitely can be a big part of exploring your body, but it's so much more than that. Right? You may have been using avoidant coping skills where you really shut down that part of you, like you don't deserve pleasure anymore, but that's not what we're doing anymore. That's not where we're going. It's about developing your capacity for pleasure, for taking a breath, using, you can take a bath, use coconut oil, focus on feeling the feelings in your body in a non-sexual way, just to notice how your body feels again. Explore temperature on your skin, what the textures are on your neck versus your thigh, a light touch versus a massage. What does that feel like? Rediscover, like notice the sensations. And when you notice sensations, it means noticing what feels pleasurable for you. So maybe it's just sipping your coffee really slowly in the morning. Maybe it's doing yoga. What are the things that bring you pleasure outside of sex if you're struggling to connect connect sexually with yourself or with your partner? So just a few things to remember very, very quickly, because I'm almost out of time. So connect, communicate, and be vulnerable again with your partner. Have open communication, open the door to expressing your fears, talk to your partner about creating that safe space, that be familiar with yourself and touch again. Plan intimate time, not schedule sex, plan intimate moments to refocus on touch and closeness. Use your experience, so leverage your knowledge of each other's bodies and preferences to enhance your experiences. Prioritize pleasurable touch. Orgasms are great, but prioritize physical enjoyment instead and emotional connection. Be your authentic self. Forget about movie scenarios. Forget about what you've seen on TV. It's not the reality of long-term relationships. Enjoy just being yourself. And you can use humor to make intimacy fun and less stressful. And finally, allow yourself to relax into responsive desire, create and sustain the mood, set the mood with smaller gestures and affectionate interactions rather than waiting for that spontaneous desire to happen. So what next? After today, I just wanted to give you a little step moving forward to take your foot off the pedal. So I want you to start reflecting on what you've heard today. Think about your desire. Is it responsive? Is it more spontaneous? What factors do you think is getting in the way of your intimacy? And what is the small step you can do today to reconnect with your partner? Can you have a conversation? Can you show appreciation? Can you share how you feel about something? Maybe you've reflected throughout this talk and there's something you want to share with your partner. So here we are. So there's no Q&A for this presentation. I thought that we were going to be able to interact, but we unfortunately don't have the capacity to do that. But I have a Facebook group that I want to invite all women in that I've just created not too long ago because there was a huge need for it. It's called Women in Relationships, Support to Help You Nurture Intimacy and Libido. And it's open to all women in relationships. I offer workshops, guides, coaching sessions, and I will be doing a giveaway very shortly in my Facebook group in the next few weeks with other services that my peers have volunteered to give you, a free nutrition assessment to help with hormone balance, a free coaching session to help with body image. We have a coach around attachment styles to help you navigate that, a wellness challenge, so many good things. So join the group, be part of this contest to win this giveaway. And I also have a free guide that I'll pop into the comments that will be helpful for you. And you can email me at any time at the email address on the screen. So thanks all for watching. If you have any questions, you can DM me as well on Facebook.